Bradley, tough team, physical team. Daryl Brown is where it starts. We'll have to do a good job on him. Defending conference tournament champ, playing at a pretty high level right now. A game ahead of us in the standings. It's our home game against them. It's a really big game for us. Try to rebound from our last game. And well-coached team, tough team, defend really good. And we'll have to come up with some things if we want to start to get better this year. So looking forward to it.
How much have you seen them change with the child's injury?
You know, they can put lineups out there a little better in terms of shooting, and that, you know, sometimes makes them a little harder to guard because you gotta be careful. They got some guards that can really light it up, and so it's almost like what we did last year. We had to go 4 guards. They can do that sometimes, and it just opens up the court a little bit. You know, when Childs plays, he has to have the ball, so sometimes. You know, they're almost easier to guard when he plays because one less shooter, and then you know he's going to get the ball in certain areas. So they create problems, and you know we'll have to match with them a little better than what we've been deciding to do early this year.
How would you characterize the mood in practice coming off the loss?
Well, you know, Sunday was an off day because of the NCAA rules, which is good for everybody. Because I was not in a good mood on Sunday. Yesterday was okay. You know, it's one game. We can't let it become 2 games. But more importantly, we have to use it as an opportunity to change some things that we're doing. And sometimes, you know, like we've been in, you know, you can make an excuse after every loss, right? It's what we do as coaches. 1 possession, 2 possession, this, that, whatever. You know, when you get beat like that, you can throw everything out. And you don't have to justify any changes. You don't have to sell anybody on any changes. It's just time for change. And, you know, we'll keep the same core values. We'll keep the same method to our madness, but we just have to change up some of our style of play a little bit if we want to contend in the league, like we're talented enough to do. So what I mean by that is instead of, you know, like I'm a toughness guy. You know, when I played because I was tough. I became the head coach here because I'm tough. I'm tough enough to take challenging jobs and do well, right? Well, our team is talented. So we have to try to stop out-toughing people and hopefully try to play to our strength and not the other team. So I think it's just time for a change, yeah.
I know throughout the year you've talked about trying to be a little bit tougher on the road too at the same time. So I guess how do you find that balance of still showing that toughness, but like you're saying now, using that skill you guys have?
Well, you know, in order to be tough, you gotta have tough players. And right now, we have more talented players than tough players. So if we keep trying to win with toughness, we're gonna lose every time. So the coach has to understand that and make the change. Like our problem right now is not the players. You know, like if my wife was looking for a good-looking man, she wouldn't have married me. I can't just go in the closet and come out good-looking, right? She's looking for a good, honest, wholesome husband, and that's me. Okay, so we have to play to our strengths, and just because, you know, I want us to be tough, well, you know what? You know, my son wants his dad to be Patrick Mahomes, and that ain't happening. So it just ain't happening, right? So sometimes, you know, when you're close, you think, well, you know, if we keep trying, we're close. Well, we're not close, right? Last game proved that. We're not close doing it that way. So we got to do it a different way, yeah.
How is your arm?
Arm?
Patrick Mahomes' arm, yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's can't bring you back by down 24 in 1 quarter. That's good.
You talked with Art last night about Sunday. Your pastor kind of, you were able to reflect a little bit. Do you think that your players had any of those moments of just after a big loss like that, kind of looking in the mirror?
You know, I do, but you know, coaches, we try to say that kids aren't different, but kids are different, okay? And so I think 15 years ago, that would really rub a team the wrong way. Nowadays, I don't know if that rubs kids the wrong way more than something else would rub them the wrong way. And I do think that our guys were embarrassed, but does that loss drive them to do something different? I'm not sure. But what I've got to do is I've got to do something different to get different results. So it's almost like, you know, if that can't push their buttons, then I still have to figure out a way to push their buttons and not count on another team beating us like that to push our buttons, if that makes any sense. I know our guys don't want to lose by any margin, let alone like they did. But I don't know if kids are now motivated by something that happens to the entire team as much as they're motivated by something that makes things better for them. So it's just that type of mind game that you have to play with today's athletes, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, very few people now are motivated by what happens to the entire organization as opposed to what happens to them. It's just the world we live in. I mean, and as a leader, you have to adapt with that, and that's kind of where we are right now. I've got to make some changes in order to meet them where they are. Because, you know, what we've tried to establish here is a standard of, if you're not first, you're last. If you lose by 1 or 23, you still lost. So I really believe our players feel like that. So a bad loss like that won't move them more than what I can move them by trying to meet them where they are.
Have you identified a game or a stretch of time in which the team has played the style and up to par with what you want to see out of this?
Well, I think that's the problem. Yeah, they have played the style I want them to play, but that's not the right style for them to play. That's our problem. You know, I want them to be a blue-collar, tough, meet me in the middle of the ring, back alley, you know, what'd you say about my mama? Type of attitude. Well, we don't have those type of guys. We have more talented guys than we do tough guys. It's not a problem, it's just who we have. So the reason that we've showed inconsistencies is because I have demanded that they play a way in which is probably not best for them. And so we've got to make some changes. We got to really make some changes.
How is this kind of, what have you kind of learned from this and kind of how you assembled the team in that way?
Well, you know, I'm a huge advocate in believing that you win with great players. If you know, have you ever coached? No. Okay, well, whenever you get an opportunity to coach, you better have you some good players. And so you want to take the best players you can. But there's also a time where you may want to take a player that makes your team better. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to be a great player. You can get a great player that makes your team better. But I think what's more important than focusing on the team and how it was assembled was, well, what's best for the team that you did assemble? And I think that's kind of where we are right now. Because ask yourself this. If you're sitting in your office and Gage Prim calls and wants to commit, but you got a returning front court player that's all MVC, you gonna tell Gage Prim no? He's probably not gonna coach at this level very long. So we don't have the most talented roster in the country. You think Mike Krzyzewski's whole roster is not talented? You think Northern Iowa's roster is not talented? Everybody's got all good players. It's the coach's job to get them to do what they're supposed to do. So we don't have a problem in the way the roster was assembled. What we have a problem is the way the roster is being used. And so, but that's good because that means I have to fix it. And so, you know, as you sit up here and answer these questions and know you're the one that has to fix it, then I'd rather have a problem I got to fix than a problem that somebody else got fixed. So we're going to keep taking good players. We have to. I mean, you win with good players, but I've got to get them to do what's best for this team, and I've got to get them in a mental state where they want to do that. So I can want them to jump over the moon, but if they don't want to jump over the moon, they're not going to jump over the moon. And so you know, you look at last year's team where you had guys like Dixon and Krekel and Webster, but they had more of a chip on their shoulder. So the message I was giving them, that could connect faster. You know, they had no problems, you know, we call it blood, sweat, and tears. And that was good for that group. Well, this group's a little different. They're bigger, they're more talented, so I've got to make some adjustments to utilize the group better. And, you know, it's like anybody. If you're asking them to do something that they're not good at, then they're not going to be all in on it. And I can sit here and try to put a square peg in a circle hole for the next 7 weeks, or, you know, I could trim that square peg into a circle and slide the darn thing through, and that's what I'm going to try to do.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that a lot of the key contributors this year are new to the program, whereas the guys you just mentioned were here for the duration of their careers?
No, it's all about coach asking them to do something they can't do. I mean, it'd be, okay, who's the greatest track coach of all time? Do we know?
Coach Jeter.
Jeter?
I don't know.
Well, Ed Temple was at Tennessee State. He's the greatest of all time. Ed Temple was a head coach at Tennessee State. You guys should look him up. Remarkable. So you won't believe his resume. Anyway, he could take you guys out there on that track right now and run a, I don't know, 4x4, and you guys are going to come in dead last because he's asking you to do something that you can't do. Right? But he's wise enough not to come in here and ask you to go run a 4x4. So I've got to do the same thing. I have to stop asking this group to do what they cannot do and figure out what it is that they can do and do it, right? And you know, I've always worked for toughness guys and things like that, and right now we don't have that, and we've got to get this group in a better situation. We really do. We really do.
So what's the foundation of that? Where does it start in terms of beginning to change the momentum?
Well, I mean, it's a mindset. Number one, you know, you got to get their minds right, and we won't change any of our core values or anything like that. But just, you know, like right now we're playing, you know, we're trying to play smash mouth basketball. Well, we don't have smash mouth players, so you just have to tweak how you're playing the game. You know, one of the things is, you know, we got probably the slowest tempo in league play. Well, that's probably not a good idea, considering you got, you know, so many guys that can get up and down a basketball court. You know, it may be one of those things where it gets worse before it gets better, but you know, you can't keep trying to get somebody to do something that they're just not built to do. You just can't do that. So you just make some minor tweaks, but you still keep some of the same core values. You don't change anything. We just have to go about it in a different way, different lineups, different speeds. You know, just you know, different calls in terms of defense. Things that we do, but we don't do them a lot. But we may have to do them more. You know, and just kind of keep going with that.
Where do wins factor into all this? Because it's like, it's all meant to get a W. And so if they see some of the fruits of their labor, then maybe they'll begin to buy into that.
Well, I mean, when you're in a race, every game counts. I mean, we're trying to win. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're 2-2 in league. The team, the first place team is 3-1. I mean, that's one game. Mm-hmm. So, and then one of the teams that's 3-1, you're about to play them. So if you beat them, you're both 3-2. I mean, wins are important for this group, for sure. And I just think, you know, it's my job to put them in a better position to win. I mean, I have to do that. I mean, I really have to do that. I can't continue. You know, you look at some of our starts, and you know, if I'm giving them a way to play that they don't want to play, well, then you got to give them another way to play. I mean, that's just today's world. I mean, we can like it or not. It's just today's world. I mean, so wins are what it's about in terms of the game. But at the same time, you know, we can't, as coaches, we can't ask them to meet us where we are. That day is over. I mean, that day is over. You know, you got guys that win a national championship last night for LSU smoking cigars. And that wouldn't have happened 25 years ago. Seriously, their coaches, tell them to smoke cigars. I mean, come on. It's just a different day. So the wins are important, but they got to be in the right mind frame to win for you. And right now, our guys, when they take the floor, they're not in the right mind frame, and it's affecting their play. They're not bad kids at all. They're not defiant. And the reason why we're probably not playing as well as we are is because they aren't defiant. They're trying to do what I'm asking them to do. Well, I'm asking them to do the wrong thing.
So have they expressed to you how they'd like to play?
No, they haven't. And that could be another issue. I'm probably not the easiest guy to knock on my door and say, hey, we're not going to do what you want us to do. And again, that's today's youth as well. But we don't have bad kids. And so what I've got to do so you guys watch a game one time, and then you write about it and you report on it. You guys watch it one time, and you're an expert, right?
Always.
Well, I watch each game like 25 times. And so I like to believe that I am an expert on it. And so as you continue to watch each game so much, as you're sitting there, whether your drink of choice is red wine like mine or ginger ale, you have these revelations and you think, oh man, they're not doing what you ask, and they're not bad kids, so why are they not doing what you ask? Well, you're asking them to do something they can't do. So you got to ask them to do what they can do within the confinements of your program. There's a million ways to skin a cat, and you still go about it by competing hard, by being respectful, by emptying your tank. All those things are still what we're preaching, but we got to do those things in a different way.
I know there's always a point of emphasis on trying to win at home. So from the outside, and this kind of goes off what you were just saying about how we view things versus how you view things, from the outside it's easy to say that tomorrow is extra important because you're coming off a home loss. Is that reasonable to take that approach from your perspective?
No, I think, when you're in a race, they're all important. See, as coaches, we've got to stop coming up with all these little, catchphrases of why it's important. Man, it's important because you're in a race, right? I mean, it's important because you're in a race. So had we won at home, this game would still be just as important. So, sometimes those catchphrases, there's time and a place. Right now, we're not on that. That game's important because it's our next game, and we're in a race. And when you're in a race, every game is important. And that's the beauty of a conference race. Our group at this point last year was at the same place, I think 2-2 with a slightly different schedule. But our fifth game last year was important. Our fifth game next year in league play is important because it's the next game, right? So if we were 4-0 right now, man, next game would be important because now we get some separation between second place. So it's important because we're in a race and it's the next game. Yep. We got a good enough team that can win on the road and at home in this league. Okay.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys.